Okay, guys, so this video is for you. So ladies, if you're watching, definitely stay tuned because you play a part in this. So this video is all about 3 things women yearn for, that they crave in marriage. So this is marriage lessons for Christian marriage. So 3 things women yearn, not just even want, they yearn for in marriage. And so I would venture to guess that they would be being loved, and I'm going to dive into each of these, seen and heard. So loved, seen, and heard. Women yearn to be loved, seen, and heard by you, husband. They need this from you. Yes, they have girlfriends that surround them. Yes, there's people that surround them. But from you, this is special in marriage. And it creates the oneness and the intimacy. So men, if you're desiring more sexual intimacy in your marriage, this is the path. So after this video is over and you get good stuff, make sure you're sending it to your other buddies so they can have greater sexual intimacy in their marriage also. So loved. You think about your wife. How does she desire to be loved? Skylar and I have been married 12 years now, almost 13 years. And the way I desired to be loved in the beginning of our relationship was completely different from what I desire today. As I've grown and changed, my desires have grown and changed. And so men, are you checking in with those desires? Sometimes, men, you do something and it doesn't get that much bang for the buck. Like it doesn't land. And you kind of check your box and say, okay, well, I've invested into our marriage. And so is your investment getting the ROI that you think it is? Like, are you checking in with your spouse to know, did that land? Like, did that create connection? Did that create intimacy with us? Or, again, are you just checking the box? So if you get your wife flowers, like, does she feel your love in that, right? If you're writing her a note, does it mean something to her? Or does she just see that as a task that you're doing? Check in. What's actually happening? How does your wife desire for you to love her? And so, guys, this would come in the form sometimes of complaining and sometimes of nagging. I want you to think, how has your wife been complaining? What has she been nagging you about? Because that often gives you an indication of what she wants to be loved, how she wants to be loved. And so, wives, if you're watching this, the nagging and the complaining, can you turn those into actual desires and requests? Instead of complaining and saying, you never come home when you say you're going to. You don't ever help with the dishes. You don't ever help with the kids. I put the kids together all to bed all by myself. You don't do this. Wife, could you turn that into, honey, I would really feel supported if you'd help me in this way. I'd really feel loved and connected if we did this together. So husbands, listen with a more intent ear on those complaints. And wives, can you turn those complaints into asks and like expressions of desires? So loved, are you being intentional in feeding your wife's love? And guys, I want you to know that loved for women, like that can be an everyday thing. I know that you said you loved her a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and to you, that love hasn't changed. But to us, every single day that changes. Skylar can spend the entire weekend with me. And by about Tuesday afternoon, I'm already missing him. I already need, I love you, babe. I need attention. I need connection with him. And he could go the entire week completely full on that past weekend. So when you talk about loving your wife, like that is a daily task, men. Like, are you daily being intentional of showing her that she's a priority to you? Because she sees you go work or go work in your business every single day. And she knows that's a priority to you, not just to make money, but where does she fall in your daily priorities? Like maybe you're good at working out and you're super committed to working out, or you're super committed to eating clean, and you spend your time doing these things you're committed to. And then you come home to her and she gets the leftovers. And she does not feel like you're intentional with her or that you're pouring into her, but you pour into all other areas of life. Eventually, the conclusion that she'll come to is that, well, I guess she's just not as important. And if she's not as important, then I'm going to pull back and I'm not going to invest in him either. So you could be saying, well, if she would just do this, then I would love her, right? But this video is for you guys, for you. And I had a video that I made for her that was part 1 of this, how she can respect you and show up for you. So if she hasn't seen that, make sure you get the link and send that over to her. Let's talk about being seen. A woman being seen and heard. The second and third part of this, seen and heard. So for me, I'm an external processor, and most women tend to be. Like Skylar, my husband, when he processes things, he can work through all of it by himself in his head or kind of journal, and then he doesn't really need to say words out loud. I'll work through it in my head and I'll spiral over and over and over again, and then I'll journal, and sometimes I can get to a conclusion, but oftentimes I'm still spiraling. So for me, I need to externally process what's going on with me. And so that's where I use coaches and therapists and people to support me, but sometimes I want to do it with my husband. I know he's intelligent. I know that he's great at things, and sometimes I want to be heard by him. But what stops that is when he brings his problem-solving, great ability into my communication with him. Because in the business, every day, he's solving problems, he's putting out fires, he's doing things, he's being efficient, he's doing that stuff. But if in my communication with him, efficiency is the last thing that I want. I don't want him to tell me to get to it in 2 minutes. I don't want to bullet point it to him when I'm doing it. But oftentimes, like before we were aware of this, that's what he would do. We would come to conversations and he would want the short version. Okay, give it to me, right? What is it? And then he'd be like, okay, this is how we need to solve it. This is what you need to do. But that was the opposite of making me feel heard. I felt judged and critiqued, and that he didn't really care about me when he approached the situation of me talking to him about that. But then when he could just give me 10 minutes or give me 15 minutes to say, even when it was about him, if he could create space for my emotions, I then began to feel heard. And I began to feel seen. And if I could just say everything out loud, those feelings of anger or frustration or sadness or whatever it was would leave. At some of our seminars, we teach the path to transformation. And part of that path is experiencing it. And so husbands, sometimes it can feel like this is where your wife's complaining. She's complaining about stuff. But could you see it as this is where she's experiencing it all? And once she experiences it all out loud, with you listening, someone witnessing her pain, that then she'll be able to let it go. But when she doesn't feel witnessed, she doesn't feel seen, she doesn't feel heard, she wants to hold on to that. Each of us, right, husbands and wife, like you think about it, each of us get validation in different places. And it seems as if women get validation in this place. And when their husbands can meet that need, emotionally, women feel so connected to you. And that's when our greatest intimate moments some of our greatest intimate moments have happened. After we've emotionally connected, after he's emotionally seen me, not judged me, not solved it, and just heard what's going on for me, I then want to open the rest of myself up to him intimately with him. So loved, seen, and heard. And so that requires you putting your phone down when you get home. That requires you not like answering a call in the middle of everything. That would maybe require being on date nights and being intentional without your phone and without the distractions of everyday life. And so I just want to challenge you in that way, husbands. Like, can you have a greater capacity in loving, being intentional, seeing, and hearing your wife? Because if you can do that, I guarantee, almost guarantee, I hope and I pray to the Lord that she's willing to connect with you intimately. And so if you've shut her down in these areas and you haven't been intentional in this area, it might take her a minute to get on board. So husbands, you won't be able to just say, hey, I did it, and she didn't respond the way I wanted to. She might be confused. Right? She might not come to you with these emotions anymore. She might not expect you to love her anymore because you haven't been for so long. So she might be shut down and have some walls and have resentment and bitterness in some of these areas. So husbands, you might not get the response that you're looking for initially, but are you willing to persevere? Are you willing to show up for her? Are you willing to be the one that puts a stake in the ground that you're going to shift your marriage? Regardless of how she shows up, can you be the one that shifts it? Can you be the one that changes it and be the catalyst for change, right? You're committed to so many other things, whether it's work or business or fitness or health. Can you be committed to her in a greater way and love her like no other person on this planet can love her other than the Lord? Can you stand for her? Can you stand for something greater than yourself? And I know you have your needs, you have your wants. And I promise if you do this, she'll meet them eventually. But she might have to work through some stuff along the way of getting there. So I'd love to hear what stood out most in this video for you. And husbands, what are you committed to doing? How are you committed to showing up for your wife? And if someone comes to mind, like a family member or a coworker or someone in your business that needs to hear this, my ask is that you share this message with them, and you then have a conversation with him, and you create an accountability partner for how you're going to show up for your wife. So when you feel let down or you feel discouraged, you have someone to turn to challenge you in this area and to challenge you to become the man that God's called you to be in your marriage. And help keep you responsible to that, because you're going to waver. You're going to get your feelings hurt. Things are going to happen, and you're going to want to choose disconnection. But can you surround yourself with other men that are willing to hold you to be the man that you are called to be? So if you're not subscribed, definitely subscribe. And more great videos are coming on connection and intimacy and communication and marriage. So I'll see you soon.